Welcome to Bitter Reality Brewing. Today we're going to be doing a Citrus IPA. It's very citrus forward, as they say, IPA. The beer is not going to have any citrus in it at all, but it's going to taste like it does. As I mentioned in a malt video, if you haven't seen that, take a look. In the malt video, we had lots of extra malt, liquid malts that I did not realize will actually degrade over time, and we needed to use them. So instead of brewing the beers that we got them for, we're brewing beers that we decided we want today. I'm very big on following brewing styles as a template, but not a guide. I like to say, okay, hey, I want to brew this, but I'm going to go this direction. I'm going to make it a little darker, a little lighter, a little hoppier, or a little higher, a little lower in alcohol. It's simply a basic guide to follow until you decide to go outside the lines on what you want to drink or you want to share or what you want to create. There's constantly different types of beer styles being created, and there's old beer styles being reinvented or brought back from the dead. The Citrus IPA, instead of starting from scratch, we've got 3 pounds of extra pale malt, which is a pale malt, and we have 2 containers of it. So we'll have 6 pounds of extract. It's a liquid extract. We won't need to mash it, which means we don't have to add hot water to it and wait for it to come to a certain temperature. We don't have to worry about different levels of temperatures. We don't have to worry about the starches or anything like that. We just simply will add it to our water before we start to boil. As far as the grains, and like I said, during the holidays I bought some kits. I've brewed those kits before, but I decided, you know what? I don't want to brew those kits again. So in here, I have a bag. In this bag is another bag, a Molson bag. The Molson bag contains pre-milled grains. Those grains were designed for a Rye IPA. Big hit early in the year on the tap system. The Rye IPA was great. I like the Rye IPA. My older son loves it. Me and my friends like it. But I don't want to brew it again. Not right now. Maybe later. So instead, like I said, we're doing a Citrus IPA. And before we jump into what grains I have here, go ahead. If you find this entertaining, you appreciate the video, you learn something new, or you're just a fellow brewer and want to share some appreciation, hit the like button. If you don't know where the bell is, I didn't know where the bell is. Hit the subscribe, and suddenly the bell appears, which is over here somewhere on the left side. I always point over here, but it's on the left. Comment, good, bad, indifferent. If you just want to shout out, go ahead, much appreciated. If you have a question, I will do my best to answer the question. Sorry, saw a little stem in my malts. I don't believe I have stems in my recipe, so I'm not brewing or I'm not mashing stems. What we have here as far as the grains, this right here was a 1/2 pound of Victory malt. It was a pound of wheat malt, and then I believe, if I remember right, it was also 2 pounds of rye. So we have 2 pounds of rye, 1/2 pound of Victory malt, and 1 pound of white wheat malt. Already in the bag. I'll take it out, not a big deal, and add it to this malt. The additional malts we had 1 pound of Cara-Pils, sorry. Cara-Pils will add head retention, add a little bit of foam to the CO2, or at least allow the CO2 to create a better head retention with the foam. Give it a little bit more body, mouthfeel. Carared, which is going to give us a red. This original recipe was based on a red IPA I did, a Red Rye IPA I did before using Irish yeast. I haven't 100% guaranteed what yeast I'm going to do, but we'll talk about that towards the end. So basically I took that recipe and I modified it. I do that regularly. I'll find a recipe I like a lot, or I like it, but I didn't like it a lot. So I want to modify it and change it up because I thought it was good, but not good enough yet. We also added 4 ounces of Caraaroma. Caraaroma definitely adds a little bit more of the dark hue, the copper color. It's a little bit darker as far as what I would prefer in here, but I want it to give a nice malty smell. So you're not just smelling hops, because there's gonna be a lot of hops in this and a lot of yeast that's gonna be left over in the beer to add to the flavor. It's not gonna be necessarily a New England IPA, but it's definitely gonna be pretty close. I don't expect it to be very clear. I expect it to be on the hazier side because of the type of yeasts I'm looking at using. And then the hops, we're looking at doing a Centennial and Chinook, both about 3/4 of an ounce at the 60-minute point. And then later on, that's for our bittering. Later on for the actual flavoring, we're looking at adding another 3/4 of an ounce of Centennial and Chinook at both 15 and 5-minute increments. And then at the very end, we're looking to whirlpool Cascade, Chinook, and Centennial for about 10 minutes at about 140 degrees. Would be a little lower on the spectrum for what most people whirlpool, but I want to retain as many of those essential oils from the hops, so we get a lot of that aroma and we maintain that aroma. We'll also be dry hopping it with similar amounts of hops for about 7 days before we actually go ahead and keg it and begin carbonating it. But we just want to get all of that in there. We're also going to throw in about an ounce of Citra with the Chinook, Cascade, and Centennial to really get that citrus forward type smell going and aroma. Currently, we're looking at Citrus Imperial yeast, which is Imperial A20. I'm debating between doing that, or I have a Weist, which is a tropical. But I think the citrus is going to be the best overall. I have the yeasts right now going on yeast starters. I'll make sure I smell them just before we decide which one we're going to use. I know that sounds weird, but I love experimenting. And if one of them stands out more than the other, that's probably what I'm going to go with. I've done it before where you do what they call dry hop, but not like you think. Dry hop Imperial yeast, which is really citrus, if I remember right, and Barbarian. I think that's 04 for one of your yeasts. Blend it together. It's kind of like adding a citrus smell or citrus smelling yeast with that of White Labs California yeast 001, a very clean yeast, so that you get a nice balance between the clean and you're accentuating the hops a little bit more. The malt's going to be nice, but it's not going to probably stand out as much as the hops will, but we want to give it some backbone because we don't want the hops to dominate the flavor. Thank you again, and let's get brewing. Okay, this was the citrus or the fruit IPA. Essentially, it's a Citrus Rye IPA. We're going to do something a little different today too, since I've been having problems with the grain father maintaining temperature or bringing temperature up to boiling. We're going to just simply use that as our hot liquor tank. Use this as our mash, sparge, and then move it over there for the boil into the Anvil 10-gallon tank, and we'll boil it. Once we're done boiling it, we'll bring it back over to the grain father to use the pump system to cool it down. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do when things don't go the way it's supposed to go. As I mentioned before too, this is going to be an extract and specialty malts. We're using 2 3-pound things of extra pale liquid malt extract. So it's from Austin Home Brewery Supply, but actually it came with some other beer kits that I bought during the holidays. They were just a better deal than buying this stuff myself. Cyber Rye beer or Cyber Rye IPA. Something they sell at Adventures in Home Brewing. Great beer, still on tap. They send you a Molson bag with all the specialty grains already in there. We're just going to cut that, put it on in there, and then we're going to add some additional grains to go with that. We have almost 11 ounces of hops. We're going to have our bittering hops with Chinook and Centennial. We'll have some flavoring hops with Chinook and Centennial. Chinook and Centennial again just at the last 5 minutes, so 15 to 5. And then we're going to do a 10-minute whirlpool. And a 10-minute whirlpool is going to have 4 or 5, I don't even remember anymore. 5 different hops, including the Centennial, Chinook, Citra, Cascade, and Callista. And we're going to try something new. This is a paint stirrer. It's for stirring paint. A whirlpool is just that. You basically are swirling the water around to maximize contact with the hops. As you've cooled it, we're going to do a 140-degree whirlpool. So what we're looking for is to pull out as much aroma as possible out of those hops. And we'll dry hop this also quite heavily. This is going to be extremely fruit forward. It's going to smell like there's citrus in there. It's going to taste like there's citrus, but it's only going to be hops and yeast. Let's get to it. Almost forgot. Same thing. We're adding our salts. Done. I'm just going to add all the water here. We'll put 3.5 gallons here, 3.5 gallons here, do our mash,
and then bring that water back over. Definitely using rice hulls. We have 3 pounds of grains that can cause problems, 2 pounds of rye, 1 pound of wheat. We want to make sure that we don't get a stuck sparge. We want to make sure that the water flows through the grain and continually flowing, using the grain hulls, should we say, to create a filter to trap any kind of debris or bits and pieces of the grain, allowing just for the wort to flow so that we can move it over to our hot water tank and convert it into our boil tank. There we go. And like I said, the liquid malt will add towards the end. The grains are from different kits that I have decided to use in what I want to make. Get tired of drinking the same thing and making the same thing all the time sometimes, but sometimes it's fun to make whatever you've made before and make it better or different. It doesn't always have to be better. Sometimes being different is even better. Not too worried about this because this doesn't have the rye or the wheat. It's in the big bag with the Victory malt. Go ahead and stir that up. Go ahead and add some more rice hulls. Sorry about that, had a little delay. One thing, if you ever order a kit or you order grains in a kit and it comes in a Molson bag already, or just comes in any bag, look and see if it's actually milled. Normally I mill my own, but when I got the kit, it didn't ask, it just came that way pre-milled, which I was okay with. Maybe it didn't, and half the grain in that bag was milled and half was not. Pretty much I had quite a bit of grain that had never been broken down. So I took it, went, milled it, put it in, we're good now. Get this wet, that way it slides in easier. We're using the micro pipe set for the grain father, since we're doing a kind of a mini mash, and then we're going to add the liquid extract after we do the mash. We have it in there. And we're ready. Mess around. One of the reasons I always leave the pipe turned off, so when I go like this and the pump turns on automatically to start with the mash, I don't end up with a bunch of hot liquid on the floor, and then I can turn like that. Wow, we've already got a nice light amber color immediately. And we are going for a red. It will probably get a little darker than that with caramelization once we add the pale malts. But between the yeast and everything, we'll probably have a slightly darker red than that, but not crazy. Not like it'll look at the very end of this. Okay, and there we go. We're gonna be doing this. We got a 60-minute mash, 10-minute mash out, and then we'll get a 90-minute boil. Citrus Rye IPA continues. Okay, we just got the alert to basically sparge out, grabbing our sparge water. I'm gonna lift this up. Should be light, but it's towards the end of the day, so I'm tired, so it's heavy. Even if it's not heavy, it's heavy. As you can hear, all the water from that sounding inappropriate to this sounding like just a waterfall. We have lots of water flowing. As this water's flowing, been putting it in Pyrex, but this will work good. Drop it down, pour it in. Just pour it nice and slow. Don't pour semi-boiling water on your foot when you have sneakers on. It hurts. Just a reminder. Probably should have been a little more careful. Got a little lock, if you notice when I reach down there. That lock keeps you from accidentally turning it on. Although it locks again when you turn it all the way on. I wish that did not. I wish you could turn it off without having to pull the lock. I don't quite get that design part. I get the other one. Once we're done sparging, we're going to take the water and we're going to move it over here to the anvil, 10-gallon kettle, and we're going to boil it for 90 minutes. And we're going to, as soon as we get it up to a boil, we'll start our first hop addition, and then the remaining hop additions will be at 10 or 15 minutes, 5 minutes, and then after flame out, once we get the temperature down to 140, we'll do a 10-minute whirlpool. We're going to use this for our boil kettle, and we're just sparging over here, and that's our mash tun. It'll be faster, easier, and I won't have to worry about this not getting up to temp. We'll do some tests on this later to find out what's going on. Now we need to add 2 3-gallon, so 6 gallons of extra pale. Super syrup. Set that down temporarily, and we'll just pour this in. Super sweet, just like honey, except for it's made from, as this says, 100% barley. Which is kind of nice because a lot of them are a blend of different malts. And let's turn the pump on. Nice hot 184 degree water. Let's go in there. Close it up nice and snug. Had to grab the glove. It's getting kind of hot. We're going to fill that, let that keep draining, fill this, move it over here onto the fire, crank it up to a boil, and rock on. Don't forget that whenever you put extracts in there, especially when you go to reapply the heat, you need to stir it. Get a good brew paddle. Wood is usually preferred as far as I'm concerned. Plastic's okay, but I like the wood. Reason is it won't scrape the bottom like metal will. And just simply give it a good stir. You could actually probably make beer on Halloween and dress up like a witch or a warlock and look very appropriate with a kettle like this. For new brewers and brewers who maybe haven't brewed in a while and forgot, when you see this and you're close to 212 degrees Fahrenheit based on your altitude, you are close to what they call a hot break. You get all the froth helps trap a lot of the heat, and suddenly you'll get a boil. And the boil could be quite intense. If you're not nearby, that boil could actually push froth up and over the pot, down onto your nice burner, and all over everything, and everything will be a hot, sticky mess. Not to mention, you will lose a portion of your beer, of course, because it will be going up and over the edge. We are just about at hot break. Once we get to hot break, we will stir. Then we will add our hop basket, and we will toss in our first 2 ounces of hops. That's a 1 ounce of Centennial and 1 ounce of Chinook. One of my favorite hops, actually. Both of them were. Just Chinook kind of overruled Centennial for a while, and occasionally I like a good Centennial smash. And there are the first bubbles of the boil. So we're going to go ahead and begin stirring. And there it goes. There's the rage. And I got to turn the heat down. hop basket in. There it is. And here's our first hop addition. We have Centennial and Chinook. Both of them very great. A little bit of resin in the Chinook, a little citrus in both, a lot of grapefruit, a little grassiness, a little pine in the Centennial, grapefruit definitely in the Chinook. And some of that stuff gets stuck when it gets moist. And as you can see, it's frothing up a little bit. Now we have a 90-minute countdown. Hang in there. Okay, so we're down to 144 degrees. Been a long brew day. Started at 6:40 a.m. brewing at Dunkelweizen. After around 1:30 maybe, started brewing the Citrus Rye IPA. Full, probably about 12 ounces almost. And now we're going to whirlpool for 10 minutes. This out of there. And this is essentially what we're doing. We're taking this and doing that. Stick it down here, just under the edge.